Welcome to Alberto's Universe. This is Ascension Chronicles Part 2, our most recent ascension. In Part 1, I explained Ascension, more specifically, the ascension in consciousness. Since we are programmed to fear the unknown, I will remind us of our most recent ascension as a way to put what we're going through within context. Yes, we did go through an ascension process in this lifetime already. Again, from the previous presentation, ascension refers to a consciousness ascension, and that consciousness is how we understand, how we process the world around us. So let us go back to our childhood. A child is happiest with the family. Think of it as being happiest with his or her pack. As a child, we often talk to our peers in school and we brag about our dad's truck. Let's say our dad has a very big truck, but we don't think of it as our dad's truck. We think of it as our truck. Whatever our parents have or own or whoever they are becomes our identity. The family's identity is our identity. The greater the family love that we witness, the more we feel loved. The larger the pack, the more diverse and fulfilling we find it to be. We need our family. We need our pack. We are happiest with our family. As a child, we are sad without the pack, without the family. Which is why starting school is difficult for many of us. We see ourselves as part of the family, and that is the consciousness state of the child. This was how we viewed our world. This was our window. Then came adolescence. Our perspective changed. Our consciousness changed. A genetic diversion took place. Here, it's important to remember that spiritual is real. Spiritual becomes material, material becomes spiritual. Therefore, spiritual becomes genetic, genetic becomes spiritual. You may ask, so is the change into adolescence genetic or spiritual then? Let's look at the double helix, the DNA, our genome. This double helix is really an antenna. It has a large combination of crystals in it. And as we know, crystals hold the code. Each crystal type resonates differently. Put them together and you can encode our life within it. Yes, Our DNA defines our eyes, our hair, our height, our color, and many other characteristics. Part of our DNA comes from mom and dad. That is because before we came to this life experience, we made a soul contract with who would be our mom and who would be our dad and who would be our siblings. All that is pre-agreed. And we select a mom on the basis of the genetic code that she carries, because within that code there is family experience. If we want to have a lifetime where we experience being isolated from the rest of the family, we would then select the resonance of isolation in the DNA. And either mom or dad can bring that to us so that our purpose matches our physical resonance. But our DNA also holds our spiritual information, where we come from. What are our spiritual contracts? What are our goals in this lifetime? In essence, energy is coded inside of our genes. The DNA then equals the energy of who we are, the resonance of who we are. We know we are energy. Everything around us is energy. But we now understand that each cell carrying a copy of our DNA, of our genome, inside of each cell then resonates to our soul, to our spirit, to our goals for this life, to the past experiences that we wish to incorporate in this lifetime. So that when we are ready, we can then ascend in perspective. We can ascend in consciousness. We go from being a member of the pack as a child to being an individual as an adolescent. We discover the self. Our window to the world no longer be the same. It will no longer be the same. We change our perspective. We don't care about Dad's truck. We care about our truck. It doesn't matter if he's got a brand new lifted big tire truck and ours is much more humble. What matters to us is that it is our individual vehicle. As part of this ascension, we try to find how much can we jump? How fast can we run? How good are we at solving challenges? How do we perform when facing risk? How do we look and how can we look better? And many other questions. Because this awakening is a moment when we discover so many unanswered questions. Questions that we didn't face, we didn't have when we were children, when we were happy with being a member of the pack. Because of these many questions, we develop a large insecurity about who we are. And that is something we can observe in all teenagers, in all adolescents. We are driven to find answers, and that's the purpose of the soul. Because then we are pushed, we are inspired to find our path. Again, the physical becomes spiritual, the spiritual becomes physical. It all has to match. Remember that on part 1 I mentioned that we must see the universe as this beautifully choreographed dance where everything is in rhythm and we always receive what we need. Not what we want, but what we need. Think about it. In order to face the world post-adolescence, our genome, our spirit, changes our consciousness level. As children, members of the pack. After adolescence, we are individuals. For some, the changes will be slow. For others, it happens quickly. We all have heard the stories of those children who, due to hardship, had to become mature and support their families at a young age. And there's always those who never become self-reliable, who despite going through the maturing process of the body, they don't quite embrace it. They try to hang on to who they were, and even as 20 or 30-year-olds, they still want mom and dad to take care of them despite being adults themselves. Interestingly, a telltale sign of ascension, of the ascension that took place through adolescence, is in how time behaves. Have you noticed that time has accelerated? That days just seem to fly by? Well, remember that when we were children, each day seemed to go on forever. I don't know about you, but I certainly felt bored many times because how much I had to wait for everything. On episode 1, I mentioned that higher energy equals higher consciousness. We're going through the electron cloud that raises our planets, our stars' energy. It raises our energy, and our higher energy then becomes more capable of a higher consciousness. Well, that also means that higher consciousness means higher energy. And if we look at Einstein's theory of relativity, he described how time varies with energy. Specifically, remember his famous formula. E, energy, equals m, mass, c squared, which is the square of the speed of light, which is a big number. So in essence, energy equals mass times a big number. Energy equals mass. That means that time also changes with mass. Here, I'm sure we have seen many movies where space travelers leave the Earth and go visit some star, or perhaps they travel near a black hole and then come back to Earth a few years later, only to find that Earth's time has changed much, much more. Perhaps hundreds or thousands of years. They left a few years, come back, and Earth has experienced thousands of years. That is the effect of becoming or being near that high mass black hole or high mass star. Or let's think of it as high energy black hole or high energy star. In other words, the higher the energy that you experience, your clock moves at a certain rate, and the clock of Earth, the clock of others, moves much, much faster. That's the reason why you look around and suddenly the day just went by. You have certainly experienced that and maybe even worried at how fast things move. We see our children grow very quickly. To them, it takes forever. To us, they just suddenly grow larger, grow bigger, grow smarter. But as we go through this ascension process, an ascension in consciousness, let us not be concerned with time. Time is needed by those with lower consciousness because only then can they understand what they experience. In order to digest what they see or what's in front of them, a lower consciousness being must take it into small parts, small fractions. But those with higher or rising consciousness will be able to progressively process more and more information simultaneously. Grab a bigger bite at a time, thus making time unnecessary. If you are here, you are ascending. If you're ascending in consciousness, you are moving away from time. Embrace what the universe brings to you. Remember, you have already gone through an ascension process. And it wasn't so bad. Perhaps a little difficult and challenging at the time, but in hindsight, not a big deal. Thank you.